The Spurs Pelicans, our other playing game in the West. Pelicans 5.5 point favorites here. Total is 224. The winner of this game will play the Clippers for the final playoff spot. In this series, Spurs have won 3 of the 4 games between these two teams, but they tonight are the underdog. Alex, who are you taking?
Give me the Spurs. One of
Yeah.
my favorite things to see in sports is when an athlete's like, I'm going to play. I love that. Give me the other team. I mean, that means Brandon Ingram's going to be out there tonight fighting through some sort of injury. He's not going to be 100%. You go back and look at what the Spurs have quietly done over the last second half of the season. They've been a great team. They've covered a lot of numbers. They've won a lot of games. These guys are fresh. I mean, Popovich basically looked at it and went, we're locked into this game, whether it be the 9 or the 10. Great. Let's give DeJounte Murray a little break. Let's give Keldon a break. Let's give Vassell a little break. And now everyone's kind of healthy here. We know Brandon Ingram isn't 100% now. I love Valanciunas. No one has said more nice things about Valanciunas than me, but Pirtle does a decent job against him. And again, you go back and look at the regular season, some matchups a little older than others, but the Spurs had a lot of success. And I start to think about it. It makes sense. I mean, they're guard dominant in this matchup. With all due respect to CJ McCollum, DeJounte Murray is the best guard in this matchup. Keldon Johnson is probably the best wing, especially if Ingram isn't 100% healthy. And give me Popovich at this point. I mean, this team is deep. They're playing good basketball, and I have this much closer than the 5.5 we're looking at. I still have the Pelicans as favorite, but by a point or two, not by 5.5. So give me the Spurs here.
I like that play, Alex. I haven't locked that in yet, but I've been working on it, and I think I will prior to game time. I think that's a great look, especially because we don't know this for a fact by any means, but this could be Greg Popovich's last season. Is this his last game? I mean, how does his team respond to that type of narrative? You don't think that that's any factor, Alex?
I feel like it's been his last game for a little while now, and I mean, if you asked me that question a year ago, I'd have been great. Let's get him out of here. He didn't seem like he was totally locked in a season or two ago. There was a lot more videos of him talking about wine than basketball. But this season, it seems like his interest was a little bit renewed. I think this team's a little more fun. I think he likes working with younger players with a little more dynamic guard lineup like this. And we'll see what they can do. I mean, if he made Josh Richardson useful for the first time in a long time. So anything's possible.
Yeah, dynamic guard lineup for the Spurs. DeJounte Murray's 0.2 rebounds shy of averaging a triple-double against the Pelicans this season. So can expect a big game from him tonight. Josh, what are your thoughts on this game?
I kind of lean towards the under in this game for similar reasons and circumstances. I actually like Willie Green a lot. I think he's a terrific coach, and I think he's done a lot with the Pelicans. And yeah, I'm very curious to see how he sort of stands up in this environment against someone who, let's say, is a little bit more well-versed in such situations. So ultimately, though, I think it's going to come down to execution of offense, which is obviously, an obvious statement in itself. But like Alex said, this could ultimately as well be determined by whether Brandon Ingram is actually healthy, and if he's not, that could be a real hindrance, I think, to the Pelicans. And when it comes to these superstars who go out and play games of this magnitude and they're not close to 100%, the big issue there is that those guys still get their touches and they still get their offensive sets and they still, I guess, have things run through them. And, if you're not at the level that you need to be, then all you're doing is essentially hurting your team. And in an environment like this, in a win or go home situation like this, that can sort of derail the team and things can sort of untangle really quickly for the Pelicans. So that is probably my biggest concern for anyone that wants to play on the Pelicans in this situation is Brandon Ingram's status and whether he really is healthy. And if he's not, just how much that might hurt the team as a result by him being out there, especially for extended minutes, assuming he plays close to his normal volume. But again, when it comes to the total, I do lean towards the under here. I think that these two teams will ultimately want to slow things down. We've seen signs of it as well in high pressure games where both these sides as well, from the top of my head, have gone down to half court situations, especially in the fourth quarter. I think we see that for the majority of this game. And if that's the case, I actually like both defenses to be able to get enough stops, especially when you look at how both teams, line up offensively, and that neither one of them necessarily high 3-point volume teams, neither one of them necessarily going to be shooting early in the shot clock off of those offensive sets either. So it'll be a lot of mid-range game and a lot of late shot clock situations, which gives me a lot of confidence in saying actually the under is the right side of that one. So that would be the only way I play it. Again, I think that Ingram's situation and status kind of leans you to have to play the Spurs at the current number that it is as well.
Speaking of you playing the under, Pelicans are third in percentage of points from the free throw line, so they rely heavily on getting points at the line, and the Spurs are really a disciplined team. They don't follow a whole lot. They don't send their opponents to the free throw line all that much, so I do like that angle of taking the under here. But Alex is the only one with an official play. He has taken the Spurs plus 5.5. Questions? Any player props for tonight? What would a show be without a question on player props? Who wants to start us off?